Emilio Jacinto, the brain of Katipunan. Emilio Jacinto E. DIZON, born on December 15, 1875, and died on April 16, 1899. Born in Tondo, Manila, Emilio Jacinto was proficient both in Spanish and Tagalog. He attended San Juan de Letran College and later transferred to the University of Santo Tomas to study law. He did not finish college and at the age of 19 joined a secret society called Katipunan and was one of the highest ranking officers in the Philippine Revolution and one of the highest ranking officers of the Revolutionary Society. He was an eloquent and brave young man, known as both the soul and the brain of the Katipunan, Andres Bonifacio's revolutionary organization. In his short life, Jacinto helped to lead the fight for Filipino independence from Spain. He became the advisor in fiscal matters and secretary to Andres Bonifacio, who was later known as Utak ng Katipunan or Brain of Katipunan. He and Bonifacio also befriended Apolinario Mabini when they attempted to continue Jose Rizal's La Liga Filipina, was a secret organization to build a new group that sought to involve the people directly in the reform movement. The Cry of Balintawak. Jacinto was present in the so-called Cry of Pugad Lawin or Cry of Balintawak with Andres Bonifacio the Supremo of the Katipunan and others of its members, which signaled the start of the revolution against the Spanish colonial government in the islands. The Cry of Pugad Lawin was the beginning of the Philippine Revolution against the Spanish Empire. At the close of August 1896, members of the Katipunan secret society led by Andres Bonifacio rose up. Jacinto also wrote for the Katipunan newspaper called Kalayaan. He wrote in the newspaper under the pen name Di Masilaw and used the alias Pinkian in the Katipunan. Jacinto was the author of the Kartilya ng Katipunan as well. The Kartilya ng Katipunan served as the guidebook for new members of the organization, which laid out the group's rules and principles. The first edition of the Kartilya was written by Emilio Jacinto. Andres Bonifacio later wrote a revised decalogue, the decalogue originally titled Katungkulang Gagawin. Some of his works are Katipunan ng Mga Anak ng Bayan, also known as the Kartilya, on 1895. Gising na Mga Tagalog on 1895, an unpublished essay, the article about Filipino Revolutionary. Liwanag at Dilim on 1896, an essay collection, is a political, philosophical, and literary masterpiece that talks about the current situation of the Philippines at that time. A la Patria on October 8, 1897, a poem, a patriotic piece inspired by Rizal's Mi Ultimo Adios or My Last Farewell. Sa Bayang Tinubuan, an unpublished poem, first poem written for the Spanish colonizers. After Bonifacio's execution, Jacinto pressed on with the Katipunan struggle. Like General Mariano Alvarez, he refused to join the forces of General Emilio Aguinaldo, the leader of the Katipunan's MAGDALO faction. He was married to Catalina de Jesus, who was pregnant at that time of his death. Jacinto lived in Laguna and also joined the militia fighting the Spaniards. Jacinto contracted malaria and died on April 16, 1899 in Barangay Alipit, Santa Cruz, Laguna. His remains were initially buried in Barangay San Juan, Santa Cruz, Laguna, and were transferred to the Manila North Cemetery a few years later, and then transferred his remains at Himlayang Pilipino Memorial Park in Quezon City. Tributes to Jacinto. In the 1970s, Jacinto's remains were transferred and enshrined at Himlayang Pilipino Memorial Park in Quezon City. At the shrine is a life-size bronze sculpture of a defiant Jacinto riding a horse during his days as a revolutionary. Another statue of Jacinto is located in Mihan Garden. Another monument of Jacinto was unveiled in the town plaza of Magdalena, Laguna on April 17, 2017. And Jacinto's likeness used to be featured on the old 20 peso bill that was circulated from 1949 to 1969 and also on the old 20 centavo coin. Why did Jacinto refuse to join MAGDALO faction with Aguinaldo? In our own assumption, it is because due to the conflict between Andres Bonifacio, the original leader of the Philippine Revolution of 1896, and Emilio Aguinaldo, the man who succeeded him. It argues that the key cause of that conflict was the indifference in the way that the two men conducted military operations against Spain. Bonifacio adopted a consultative approach to warfare derived from a pre-conquest leadership style, whereas Aguinaldo favored a centralized hierarchical military approach, relying on bureaucratic arrangements similar to those in the Spanish colonial regime. Since Jacinto witnessed this conflict, well, of course, he knew everything, and he is aware to what the old Katipunan's goal and stick to it. So that's the end of our report. Thank you for listening.